Excuse me, see I'm trying to read here. Hello, YouTubers. Happy 2014, everyone. I hope your year has started off well. Mine has. I got back to college about 2 weeks ago. Everything's going well. I know my first video was in 2013, so I'm going to start my, hopefully, my year of posting YouTube videos. We'll see how time works. Life is busy. But my hope is that I'll be able to put out maybe 12 videos in a year. We'll see. Today I'm going to start out with something simple. I'm just going to do a book review for a series that I read over my winter break. You've probably heard of it before, maybe not. It's been out since 2009 actually, and it's The Maze Runner. My friend told me to read this when I first came to college, and I did not get around to doing it, so I got them for Christmas and read them in about 2 weeks and cried while doing so. So many emotions! This video will contain spoilers, but I will let you guys know when those of you who have not read it should stop watching. So at this point right now, if you haven't read it, feel free to continue watching. For those of you who have not either heard of the series or you haven't read it, it's basically about this boy named Thomas who wakes up and he's suddenly in this place called the Glade with a bunch of other boys, and he doesn't have any memory of his past. He just knows his name. And so basically the first one's about him adapting to learning what's going on and adapting to the life in the Glade. I really enjoyed this series. One of the things I liked most about it was because compared to The Hunger Games or Divergent, it was very realistic, and it's something that's, that could really happen in the future, or at least a couple aspects of it. Not maybe not like the entire situation, but the reason why all of this is happening in the book, that could actually happen in the future. So it's kind of, it's interesting to see, what this world could turn into, which is scary considering the storyline. Another thing I liked about it was that there wasn't like the stress of romance throughout the entire thing. While that was present, it wasn't focused on it, and that was a small aspect, and there was a lot of other things going on. I enjoyed having a dystopian series that was not really focused on romance, and because that can be, that gives me a lot of emotions, and sometimes I just need a little bit of a break. Let me just say, to those of you who have not read this, I suggest you read it. It's really good, and I think you will enjoy it, especially if you are a fan of other dystopian series such as The Hunger Games or Divergent. I just kept wanting to know what happens. Mostly every chapter ends in a cliffhanger, and after the second book, there's a huge cliffhanger for the third one. And let me just warn you right now: do not read the Scorch Trials if you do not have the death cure right next to you, or if you do not have the ability to obtain it within the next 5 hours, because you will go insane. I'm just going to tell you, you will go insane if you don't read it immediately. At this point now, if you have not read the series, you should leave, and you should go get it and read it, and then come back and watch this so you can see what I thought about it. Let's start off with the first one. I have to say, I was so confused in the beginning. It took me a couple chapters, maybe around 10 chapters for me to actually be, to be able to read it without, focusing a lot, because when you first get introduced to the Glader language, you're just so confused. And for me, it was like, I might have known what the equivalent, I might have known what the sentences they were saying meant, but it just, my eyes had to adapt to seeing it everywhere. And so it, but after at that point, then I was just like reading it as if I have known those words for 19 years. Well, something that really bothered me, but was supposed to be that way, was that the fact that we had no idea what was going on, the same way Thomas didn't know. So as Thomas found out more, we found out more, and that also made it more comfortable. So once once I knew what was going on a little bit better, it was also easier to read too. So it was a mixture of the language and the confusion in the beginning. But then once I got a hold of that, I was just blown away, and I could not stop flipping the pages. Let's talk about characters a little bit. I did like Thomas. He wasn't my favorite, but the only reason he was not my favorite was because Newt was my favorite. Newt, I love Newt. I have loved him ever since he was, nice to Thomas in the beginning. He was the only older one that was actually nice to him from the first day he was there. And his kindness just made me so happy, and I fell in love with Newt. And then Thomas would be my second favorite character. He was, I liked his stubbornness. Like, he wasn't going to take no for an answer. He wanted to know what was going on. And I think maybe there was something different about him, I think, maybe than the rest of them. I think maybe they kind of went with it, because they all kind of expected him to just, go with it, because that's what they did. But maybe he thinks differently. He had a very strange sense that he had been there before, and that didn't help at all. So, it was really different for him. The rest of them didn't have the feeling that they didn't have the familiarity that the Mays had for Thomas when they first arrived. So it was, I think, easier for them. It was very hard for him. He really didn't know what was going on. It's gathering. That's the word. So they had the gathering with the keepers, to see what to do with Thomas because of what he had done. Clearly, he definitely showed some leadership ability in that. So basically, I enjoyed most of the characters. Gally kind of annoyed me, and so did Albie, but, he was just, maybe he was very stressed from being the leader all the time. As you can tell from Newt, it's a stressful job, because he was relieved when Albie was fine from the change and he came back to take over again. He was relieved at that. Yeah, I really did like, the first book was definitely my favorite, I think, of all of them. And then I guess in the Scorch Trials, I think I really did not like Brenda very much. I didn't like when he was away from everyone else. And I kept thinking, why don't you use your telepathy with Eris? I don't know why he didn't do that, to ask them if they were okay. That was going through my mind the whole time. So, I don't know why that never happened, but, whatever. It made me sad every time he was upset that Teresa wasn't there. An emptiness. I was like, oh, poor Thomas. But that's just my extreme emotions overflowing inside of me. I'm a very emotional person when I read books. When he came back when he was with Brenda, and he came back, and he kept saying, I need to talk to Newt. He kept saying that, and then he kept getting interrupted, and I was afraid that Newt was dead at that moment. That was what I was thinking, and I almost, had a heart attack, but he wasn't, and I was relieved. When Teresa came with the rest of the girls, I felt I didn't believe her at all until the end when she was with Eris. That I believed, but I didn't believe the rest of it. I figured that she was being controlled by Wicked. Until the thing with Eris. That I believed. It was written in a way that was supposed to make us believe it. Definitely that part, just because, Thomas was supposed to feel betrayed. And so yeah, I guess that's well done, James Dashner. You accomplished your goal. I think my overall opinion about the book was it started out well, and then kind of took a turning point, and I began to feel, wow, what's going on? Especially when he went off with Brenda and was away from the group, because I missed everyone else in their brotherly love. A lot of it throughout the entire series was I just did not know what to expect, and I learned that you just kind of have to go with it, and nothing is what it seems like it is, because there's a lot of lying and manipulation and all this stuff, because Wicked is evil. I eventually just had to learn to just read and not make predictions, just read. Okay, The Death Cure. So many feelings about this book. It was hectic and crazy. And I think overall, what happened was good, but some of the deaths were very depressing, especially Newt's. I think I cried. No, I don't think I cried. I know I cried. I cried when they found him at the bowling alley, and then I cried again when it happened with him, when Thomas found him in the streets. I cried at that part, and I cried at the bowling alley. And I wasn't just crying, I was sobbing like a baby. I was so sad. I mean, even if Newt were not my favorite character, it would still be sad just because they had to see their friend go act like that, and he was one of their friends, and especially how upset Mina was. It was just, it made me so sad. Like, not only the parts when they were with Newt, but like afterwards when Thomas was, talking about him, saying like he didn't realize how good of a friend he was until now. At that point, I was crying as well. So I just got all sad inside, and it took me a couple days. It was almost as bad as Allegiant. Not as bad as Allegiant. Nothing was as bad as Allegiant, but it was pretty close. So for those of you who have read Allegiant, you know what I'm talking about. And for those of you who have not, that will be another video. I hope. We'll see. I wasn't really surprised that Gally was back, because it wasn't really, there wasn't much closure at the end of the Maze Runner. I expected him to be dead when he jumped to the Griever. That's when I expected him to be dead. But so after he came back in the end of that, I figured he'd show up sometime in the Death Cure. So yeah, it was nice to see Gally and Thomas working together, without all the hate. When Teresa died, I have to say, I was really sad. I really don't know what my feelings were about her. I think he was a little bit harsh, and he probably could have forgiven her. And if she had to die, then, I wish he had, the way that it ended up, I wish he had forgiven her a little bit before that, so they could have some closure on their relationship before she ended up dying. Right now, I am currently reading The Kill Order, so I'm looking forward to knowing more about, about the formation of, how the flare came to be. That about sums it up for today. Let me know what you guys think. Your opinions about the book. If you share some of the same opinions I do, let me know in the comments below. Like I said in the beginning, I'm hoping to be able to put more videos out. I do have more time to read than I did in high school, now that I'm in college, but it's finding time to put the videos together. That's what I gotta find time for. Well, thank you guys for watching, and in the words of little Anna, okay, bye.